You can make the world you want to live in. You
Yeah.
can remake the world. Every construct we live in is man-made. FDA, somebody came up with that and then
Yeah.
kept coming up with more ways to structure it.
Yeah.
And it can be remade.
Yeah.
Everything can be remade. Public perception can be remade. This administration's perception can be remade. The FDA can be remade. I really believe in personal agency. I think if you meet people that we lionize as top in their field, or you meet billionaires or you meet world leaders, they're like me.
Well, thanks for joining Boba Biotech. What did you get?
I got everything. I got avocado.
You're like, someone else is paying for it. I want all of it.
Exactly. I added as much as I possibly could. I think I maxed out. I added coconut milk, cheese, mini taro ball, boba.
I mean, it looks
mango.
very multi-layered.
Yes, I've already had half of it. I'm
Yeah.
expecting a second by the end of this recording.
I mean, we've been wondering about getting this stuff sponsored, so we'll find out. That would be,
I think it would fit. Little
Yeah.
portal cells in there and chew on them.
I meant more just give it for free.
Oh.
But sir, we could come up with
Portal
like little,
branded boba.
yeah, we can get Portal branded boba. Can you give like a quick overview of your background, like what got you here?
Yeah. So my background, I actually think in retrospect, my background seems like it points to where I am today, but that's
Okay.
definitely not how it went.
Okay.
But my background, I grew up on the U.S.-Mexico border. Parents are farmers. I think that's what got me into biology. You're surrounded by plants and insects and animals, and that's the
Mhm.
first thing I like to do. Like, I like to collect bugs and plants.
Would you eat them? Or just
Sometimes you eat them. Sometimes you put them in the fridge and take them out when your siblings are bothering you. Sometimes they have multiple uses. But classification, I like to classify them. I like to understand them. So some understanding the natural world. So that got me interested in biology. I ended up studying biology at Harvard. I really thought I was going to be pre-med, but it was the first time I had been to a U.S. doctor.
Yeah.
And then I thought, this industry seems very effed up. And
Yeah.
I could not imagine, as someone who doesn't like when things are effed up and likes to change them, that I could tolerate being in that industry.
Yeah.
And, doing medicine in a way that I thought in many cases isn't optimal for the patient. That's not the doctor's fault. I think it's a systematic fault or problem. So not being pre-med, I thought, what else do I like to do? I realized I really just liked my science classes. But I had my PI in my undergrad lab did tell me, Dr. Ed Kravitz was his name, and he did tell me that, Sophia, I think I'm not sure you have the patience to be a scientist.
Okay.
You try to take too many shortcuts in your experiments. You get really upset when things aren't working.
See, one of my friends once said the difference between a great scientist and an okay scientist is like they're both smart, but the great ones know what steps they can skip.
I'm not sure I knew. I also felt it was we were in a very fundamental biology lab. I was studying larval cannibalism.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out if we can figure out neuronal pathways for aggression in larvae. And one, if they were even related to cannibalism at all. We don't know if it's an aggressive or opportunistic
Did they eat it
behavior.
because they were mad or they were hungry?
We actually don't know. And you have to induce them to be cannibalistic. Like you starve them acutely and then put them in a little agar plate with other larvae. So they might just accidentally be eating the other larvae.
Okay.
We don't know. Or they might be hunting them.
Yeah.
We hope they're hunting them, but it's not a natural behavior. So, anyway, to me, it was like too far removed from the vision of impact.
Yeah.
Of course, my PI would always talk about why we did these things and why he discovered the functionality of GABA as a neurotransmitter. And so I think, he had seen drugs be made off that discovery.
Yeah.
But I think I felt a bit too far from that impact and felt like, we were making too many social assumptions on this experiment as to whether the larvae were hunting each other or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And then so from after your undergrad days, what was the path from there to like meeting Eric and getting
Oh yeah.
going?
Sorry, I skipped a lot of my background.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, I ended up doing my master's in China, which
Yeah.
was an interesting, and basically I got to the end of senior year and I was like, or the beginning of senior year, and I was like, I don't want to be pre-med, so what do I want to do? I've never been somebody to plan my life out so many steps in advance.
Yeah.
I just kind of take the next best stone on the path. And the career services office is like, well, there's this fellowship open in China and there's consulting. So I applied to both. And
Yeah.
that's how I ended up going to China, doing a master's called the Schwartz and Scholars Program. Actually, hugely instrumental for my career now.
Mhm.
Ended up working at a biotech company in China. So that was my first job,
Yeah.
working at a biotech company called BGI Genomics, now considered a foreign adversary in the US. So
Yeah.
no Americans have worked there since. So
Nice.
I don't
You
think I
ruined it for
closed. I
everyone.
ruined it for everyone. Yeah, I think I was also the first American in their health division. So it was a great, yeah, it ended up being a great way to build connections in a country that's now hugely relevant to
Yeah.
industry. And from there, I went to a much more boring job. Sorry, BCG, but
Yeah.
super boring job where you built a lot of skills on the business side. And then from BCG, you went to the Gates Foundation, which was the first time I, learned about. I mean, I knew about mRNA, but really learned about the impact that this molecule mRNA was making. I was originally hired for who knows what, but quickly got staffed on this pandemic emerging. It's called COVID.
Yeah.
I was on mRNA, supply chain, distribution, manufacturing, and white space opportunity mapping. So when I then went and did my MBA at Stanford, and I created a role for myself in the licensing office that essentially was looking at what are technologies that are very exciting coming out of Stanford that have a lot of commercial potential but are not moving.
Yeah.
I actually think MIT and Harvard do a much better job of getting their commercially viable opportunities licensed out.
Okay.
Or out of the university and transferred to VCs or to companies or to pharma or to whatever. So I wanted to do that at Stanford. Stanford is teeming with technologies that I think are ready.
Yeah.
For many reasons, they just don't get out. And so at the licensing office, that's what I was doing, working with many different PhDs, professors, in a way, like dating many PhDs and professors who had great technologies, but just didn't know what the pathway was to make it into a company, and assessing if there was an immediate pathway or a pathway in the next 3 to 5 years and what experiments they needed to do to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an amazing position to have had. I was also like president of the entrepreneurship club at the time. So I was directly the bottleneck between VCs accessing campus and all the startups.
Yeah.
So VCs, everybody had to talk to me. They wanted to talk to anybody in campus. Kind of made it that way.
They had to kiss the ring before
they had to kiss the ring before they came in, had to talk to me. And in that way, that was like a way of really stepping onto the VC scene, the like biotech scene. And then I met Eric when someone that I had been helping, someone that I had been helping in a class, Ana Julia Starch, who now has her own startup. She was like, you should really meet this guy, Eric Casanit. He seems to have a brilliant idea. He's in this class called Lean Launchpad at Stanford. Mm-hmm. He wants to make it into a business, and I think he's looking for a business partner. He's at least looking for help. Can you talk to him? So that's when I met and talked to Eric.
Yeah. All right. And then what did it take to go from there to like starting Radar? What were the early days like?
I mean, early days, I was actually working in a very concentrated way with another group of PhDs at the time. I remember I was pitching, we share PairVC as an investor. I remember pitching Eddie over and over again on this idea, and he kept telling me it was a bad idea. And now he says, you're welcome. But I had been, really concentrated way. I was very excited about this other startup. So when I was meeting Eric, I really thought, okay, like maybe there's just some way that I can help him.
Yeah.
And I'll learn about his technology. And then honestly, because I had looked at this white space opportunity mapping for mRNA, I thought, okay, actually what he's working on is very, very directly relevant to one of the biggest challenges for genetic medicine broadly, but for mRNA is targeting it to the right cells. Yep. So I thought, actually, this could be a really great idea. Then I met with Eric, and we had a lunch where we generally just talked about the way that we saw the world and our values. And he really did seem different to me, like more of a grandiose vision kind of guy, very values oriented and brilliant. And after my first meeting with him, I think a lot of the pull was, I think I need to work with this guy. So Eric himself, I think, is an inspiring person. He's brilliant. He's ambitious.
Yeah.
And he has enough ego to know that he can change science.
Okay.
And I actually think that's important.
Yeah. They need to be delusional enough.
They need to be delusional enough.
Yeah.
Like they're like, well, I don't know if I can do this. I'm like, yeah, probably not.
Yeah,
Actually, yes, it's going to be very
now that
hard.
you say that,
Yeah,
definitely not.
I'm definitely not. Yeah, and so I really liked that meeting with Eric, and that's what got me to. I was also a fellow at a VC at the time, traditional biotech VC, and I took them the paper, Eric's paper. What do you think about this idea? It seems like a good idea, right? And they're like, not only is it a good idea, but you have a big blue chip VC trying to start a company that's doing exactly this right now. So you should think about this idea rather quickly.
Yeah.
And so I think we actually, from the time that I had that meeting with the VC and understood the sense of urgency of someone else is spinning out a company with the same idea with, not, we think we had the IP position and the data, but they don't, that blue chip VC doesn't care. They put enough funding around it, and I think they feel they can get around those issues. So that's what gave the sense of urgency. We got to look into this now.
Yeah. Coming from the MBA background, was it hard to decide on like, I'm going to do this startup? Because I say that because like, let's say the PhD background, they're married to their stuff. And if they're delusional enough to think they can make a difference, naturally that's what they're going to jump at. But you're looking at other people's inventions. Was it hard to get yourself to the point of like, no, this is the one?
I'll say I do have a bit of shiny object syndrome, but it does have to go beyond that, because for me, I didn't invent this technology. I have a lot of opportunity cost coming out of an MBA. This particular VC had already, offered a position to just be part of that VC where you'll make a lot more money. So the opportunity cost is there for me. But I think at this point I had the experience of looking at a lot of technologies at Stanford, having, an idea from my Gates Foundation experience of like, what are the big ideas that need to happen?
Yeah.
And then to me, this was a big idea.
Yeah.
I'm someone who, for me, the opportunity cost is not working on the biggest, most consequential idea you can possibly be working on.
Yeah.
And to me, Radar represented that opportunity. Not just was like, Eric seemed like someone who could solve it on the technical side. And for me, it seemed like I want to be working on consequential things. If we make this work, it is consequential, hands down. So to me, it wasn't that hard of a decision. I was really excited to work on it. There were times when I think there were some very difficult times at the beginning when I had an opportunity to exit and put down the difficult, but
and what do you think was like different about you guys that has gotten you as far as you've gotten so far? Because I'm sure there's plenty of PhDs trying to spin stuff out on their own. There's plenty of MBA PhD pairings that are trying to do stuff. Most of them die off very quickly. What do you think was different about you guys that made it work?
Really, in general, a lot of companies die off. Yeah. I think that there are a combination of skills that are required to take a company out, and it doesn't matter how many people they're distributed amongst. It could be one person, it could be multiple people. But I think that a biotech company, it's a company. So it is meant to eventually commercialize a product, and that has to be entirely well understood. At some point, someone is calculating the NPV of the products that originate from that technology. So, I mean, that just has to be so deeply ingrained. I felt others that I had worked with, it really felt like they just wanted funding to work on their idea. And like more funding to work on their idea than they would have in a lab, and would, could skip through the stages of getting tenure or, going to the academic track. And that's not compelling for me, because they really have to believe that products are going to come out of this. Of course, stage one, when I met Eric, we didn't have an idea of what the products were. So stage one is figuring out, are there compelling products that can come out on some sort of time scale that is amenable to VC dollars? There are many different ways. And I just think like we actually would have explored different sources of funding more at the beginning had it not been for this blue chip VC starting a competitor. But I think somebody has to have a very clear understanding of that. Somebody also has to be able to finance the idea. And financing is a two-part question. It's A, raising the amount of dollars that are sufficient to move it forward, and B, distributing allocating those dollars well. So knowing where to spend. And I think in biotech, you have to be extremely shrewd. It's not like tech. There's no typically there's no free boba.
Yeah.
You know?
That's why you load it up when you can.
Exactly. No, I used to tell the company at the beginning, this is not a free kombucha company.
Yeah.
We have to watch our spend really well. And we
Yeah.
were going to be looking at spend per productivity. We just have to.
Yeah.
So somebody has to be really good at the financing part. Somebody has to be really good at recruiting amazing people, probably the best people in the field, because biotech is it's really hard. You need the best people from different fields. I think Eric is really good at doing it on the science side, and I can really do it on the business side. I think you obviously have to recruit good people into the company.
Yeah.
And then you have to be able to do very rigorous science. I cannot do very rigorous science.
Yeah.
I can assess if that science is headed in the right direction, and Eric can do really rigorous science, and I think gave people the confidence that he could do it. He's both good at revealing where the data is good, or we have reason to believe, and revealing where the data gives us hesitation. He's very good at striking that.
Some people will, I don't know. I think I've heard both sides of the argument of having a PhD to be the CEO for a early stage biotech is a good thing. Others will say it's a bad thing because you're too prone to being overly nerdy or whatever. What's been your feeling on that? Because you're not from that background.
Yeah.
What have you viewed as the pros and cons there?
Yeah. It'd be interesting to hear your view, because I feel like you at this point have both sides in one person. You have the business and the science side.
Hard way. Yeah.
I think I do think that it is hard for an early stage biotech company. It is very much about the data.
Yeah.
There are a few deals. I mean, you're doing a licensing deal at the beginning, but you're fundraising and you're deciding a valuation and testing the air to see what the air tells you that valuation should be. But it is really essentially about doing very good science, and you probably want, in my view, you actually do want, which I think is different than the blue chip VC view.
Yeah.
You want someone who is the inventor or the best person in the world, the most knowledgeable in this technology, to be running the scientific strategy. And it is all scientific strategy.
Yeah.
When we started the company, I was COO. I was not CEO. And I think that was a decision we took that we were both in agreement on, and was the right decision.
Yeah.
I was going to set it up as a business, raise the money, make sure it's operational, accounting is in place, financial models are in place, HR is done properly. But Eric is running the scientific strategy because he understands it well. It's kind of like Portal and Squeeze, right?
Yeah.
You were the inventor, so you know exactly, you know more than anyone else.
Yeah.
So I think that's appropriate. But this is I think what gets missed, sometimes I talk to some PhDs that are starting companies, and I really think what's missed is that a biotech company is not a way to fund a science project.
Yeah.
It is all about funding eventually a product.
Yeah.
It may actually move away from your original idea. You may, you might move away from your original idea. You might move away from, you might not be able to do experiments that tell you more about your idea.
Yeah.
I think you have to be really willing to let those go, and really willing to focus on what's going to make a good product.
Yeah.
And I think that someone who, maybe especially the inventor, struggles with that. I also think that sometimes, I think good business people are creative.
Yeah.
They're market makers.
Yeah.
They create value and markets out of nowhere. They create deals of mutual value that others may not see.
Yeah.
I think that's a good business person. A lot of PhDs I encounter kind of expect raising funds or making deals to be like a structured application process.
Yeah.
I apply and my data is good, and therefore I will receive money.
I get a reward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. That's not the way things work.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I think it's kind of like you're saying, I think the advantage of the PhD and mentor background is that you know this better than anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're most likely to be able to keep making it move as fast as possible and sniff out what are the right technical directions. But then a lot of the features that made you a good PhD type can become paralytic for the business side or operational side, because you'll overanalyze the shit out of everything. Mm-hmm. Or you'll have too myopic a view of yes, my stuff is great, therefore others must see the greatness and give the money. Mm-hmm. As opposed to, no, there's all kinds of stupid politics in the background of what's going to get funded, what's not, what's trendy and what's not trendy may drive you nuts. And you might actually be right that this is a dumb flash in the pan, but it doesn't change the fact that hundreds of millions are going that way and nothing is going your way.
Exactly.
So you better do something about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the bridge that's very hard for a lot of technical types to get okay with, like deal with the imperfections of the world and know that analyzing the hell out of a problem is not going to be the answer. It's like you just kind of got to wing it
Yeah.
or hope, I don't know, you find the right friend that helps you get through that next stage and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because I think also a lot of them don't want to deal with other functions that they view as beneath them,
Yes.
but can definitely sink them if they neglect it. Like, let's say HR things.
HR or honestly finances.
Yeah, or the finances, like all those kinds of things. Or like they'll have trouble ever
Assigning a
firing
dollar
anyone,
amount to,
or yeah,
trouble firing anyone. Yes, I think that part of the business muscle is a sales muscle.
Yeah.
That is in every industry. We pretend sometimes it's not in biotech because basically we're all pre-commercial.
We're above that. Yeah.
We're above that. No, I think sales, having a sales muscle, is essential. At Radar, we are trying to change the way that people think about delivery. That's a sales motion.
Yeah.
You have to sell it, or no one's going to buy it.
Yeah.
And we do need people to buy into the idea. They buy in by financing us in different ways. They're financing or supporting.
Well, you're selling
whatever.
stock essentially.
But you're selling, and I think that selling to industry is different than selling to Nature or a big scientific journal. Yeah. It does. You have to understand that you're getting blowback from whatever's going on in the public markets will blow back to private. And I think the sales muscle is really about having curiosity and empathy, digging into what is an investor's worldview and where can I find a wedge to get into that worldview and expand it and get them excited. And it's often not just pitching the science as is. You can do that for a publication, but that's not for an investor. So yeah, I think that sales muscle is part of it that is often missed. Fundraising is a key skill.
Yeah.
I think if you're not good at it, you have to move over.
Yeah.
You just have to. Because it's so essential. It's like number one essential for the company. If you don't have money, it's just you're not moving anywhere. So you need to either move over, you need to find a way to bring someone in who can.
Yeah.
And I think that's like sometimes it's hard for the PhDs some PhDs get past that. That is number one.
Yeah, no, I think for most of them, phenotypically, it's just not their thing.
Not their thing.
They'll be generally happier being a CSO as opposed to, because also I think a lot of it is even if they could stand that seat, they won't like it. Because most of your day has nothing to do with science.
Yep.
And so you're not getting to do the part you like.
You're talking to investors all day.
Yeah, and you're repeating yourself.
You fundraise the money, and then you have to talk to them all day still.
Yeah. Well, and you're constantly repeating yourself, like, oh, here's what we do for the fifth time today.
Exactly.
And I'll say it 5 more times tomorrow, and so on. You just need to be okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just to remind folks, like, where's Radar at today? Like, how many people are you guys? How much have you raised so far?
Yeah. We are typically between 10 to 13 people.
Yep.
So right now we're about 11 people. We've raised like 14 million so far. So, I think publicly we raised about 13.4 and have drawn in more investment since then. Nothing makes people want to invest than others investing. So it's great.
Oh, yeah. Like, oh, you just did a round. I know that I didn't answer your calls earlier, but it just got lost. Can I please give you money now?
I think you were the one to tell me that. As soon as I closed my round, you're like, this is the perfect time to fundraise. As soon as people just invested, that's when they're going to want to put in money.
Yeah.
So we raised about 14 million. We are doing novel biology. We have some technical challenges that have never been overcome before. And so our next major milestone is to hopefully show the profile we've shown in vitro in vivo.
Yeah.
That's our next major milestone. And
what do you think are the things that, or what are the things that stood out to you so far that are most different than what you expected it to be like? As far as in general, getting involved with biotech, being a CEO for it, all that.
Yeah. There are, so many things. I'm trying to think.
The things that annoyed you the most.
Ah, man, there's so many things that annoy me. One is, actually, I think I find that other founders do this more than VCs, but, we have heard statements of like, oh, you're just in vitro and you've raised so much money. That's atypical, or like, people are, again, I feel like they're upset because they're basically near the clinic and raise less money. But, it's like, well, price and how much you'll raise is all dictated by supply and demand. We're doing something no one has done before.
Yeah.
And so you can't expect So this is kind of annoyance on VC and founder side. You cannot expect all technologies to move at the same pace.
Yeah.
If you're doing something no one has done before, it might take you a little longer.
Yeah.
If you're doing something that others have done before, well, I think China will set the bar on how fast you can go, and then you'll be somewhere in between.
Yeah.
And so I think expecting every company to be at the same, eventually clinical data does drive. Clinical data will drive financing milestones on the public side, especially. But actually, of course, in the good years, 2020, 2021, is mostly preclinical novel platforms that were getting funded with really large amounts. So I think historically that recent history that hasn't been true. People really, really liked these, platforms that were novel. Now that's kind of changed to more de-risked assets. De-risked assets can take little chunks of the world. We hope to remake the world or take a bigger chunk. I think Portal's in that category too. So it's just a different expectation. Other things, I think that this industry, this industry is interesting because VCs, I think more than any other industry, they just love to hold the reins and backseat drive and pat themselves on the back. I mean, the number of LinkedIn announcements where it's like a VC is like congratulating themselves for having founded or been the founder of XYZ company. I'm like, I think you were sitting at the VC the whole time. I think that to people outside of biotech, they would not have context for what you're saying.
Yeah.
The founder is typically the operator.
Yeah.
I have heard of the phrase in this industry, operating VCs.
Mm-hmm.
You should take on operating VCs.
Yeah.
I'm like, I should take on a backseat driver VC who will not they want to keep their VC salary. They want to keep job security. They want to, have the flexibility to they don't like the data. They just refocus their attention.
Yeah.
But they should operate the company, but they don't want to be in every day.
Oh yeah.
But they should operate the company. It just doesn't make sense. It's like an oxymoron.
Why do you think that mindset exists in our zone versus not in other zones?
I think that unlike other industries, other industries in maybe deep tech or AI or software that came out of Silicon Valley, biotech came out of Boston, and I think followed a more maybe PE style model or more. I mean, I think in Boston, the idea was you can actually go directly to a university, license a technology from a university who is the owner.
Yeah.
And I think there's this underlying idea that the scientists themselves are replaceable.
Yeah.
They're just a pair of hands. And scientists themselves are replaceable. Because they're replaceable, they can be assigned low value. They're not critical to the endeavor. The inventor himself is not critical to the endeavor. The tech transfer can be easily done as part of the licensing agreement. And therefore, the VC should own 90+% of the company on day one, which is so foreign to the Silicon Valley model that places a lot of agency on the founders themselves.
Yeah.
Google was a licensed patent.
Yeah.
But, Larry and Sergey were entirely consequential to it. But I think in Boston, oftentimes, if I were a VC too, and I'm like, on face value, do I want 90+% of a company on day one, or do I want to pay for founder equity?
Yeah.
Founder equity is extremely expensive as a VC. So you'd really have to believe someone else can take it better than you can.
Yeah, well, and I also wonder if some of it is in almost every other zone, there's a near-term feedback loop of is it generating revenue or not? Like in software and all these other things, they tend to get revenue very early on, whereas most biotechs, successful ones, whatever that means, will come and go without ever having had a single cent of commercial revenue. And it'll be like a 10-year play. They would have probably raised hundreds of millions, and maybe they got bought out for a few billion before they ever sold a single dollar worth of stuff. And so because there is no feedback loop there, it's very hard to probably judge anything that's coming out in a relatively objective way. So it all becomes a pure perception and sales game. And if the VCs are essentially just selling it to each other and they've all agreed this will be a thing, then it's easy for it to continue. And if they disagree it'll be a thing, then it just won't be.
Exactly.
Because there's no external proof points for a generalist to bet on.
And I do think with the flight of generalist capital from biotech, this is it's getting worse. But I think that's exactly right. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. You're also very beholden. There's no escape velocity from investors in this industry.
Yeah.
You're beholden
you
to
have no
them
revenue.
forevermore. Exactly. And when you enter the Series ABC, you basically have no option but to take money from these bigger investors that create their own markets and valuations. They have this little mafia.
Yeah.
And you can't escape them. They're the syndicate you need to go public.
Yeah.
In fact, your IPO price is going to be related to your syndicate.
Yep.
And you know that ahead of time. And so there's kind of no way to escape this small-ish mafia of larger firms. You're beholden to them.
Right, because I think a lot of it is a self-reinforcing feedback loop. Because if you work with those big crossover groups and it's a successful IPO, then it's like, oh, okay, so the next IPO needs to be from that group. And if your investor group is outside of that, like then the public side is like, is this IPO going to pop? Because I don't want to take the 3-year bet on whether or not their clinical POC works, because stats say it probably won't work. But I will happily play the 2-month game of I'm in the crossover, stock popped afterwards, and I get it. And then especially if they're good at getting acquired before they have clinical POC, which some of them do, then you never ever have the feedback loop of this thing actually worked or didn't work.
Yeah.
So a financial outcome can be very decoupled from actual company or drug success.
Yeah. I also think that the eventual customer base, I think M&A is a lifeline for everyone, private or public.
Yeah.
You want to go public, you're also probably looking at M&A becoming
very few ever.
Very few. I mean, I think Alnylam is barely becoming profitable now. So, I mean, you're looking at these companies that generate billions in revenue and are barely becoming profitable. It's just unlikely. Or it's a very, very select few that don't see M&A as the eventual end game. And then you're looking at maybe 10, if you're lucky, possible parties who could take you.
Yeah.
And then it also becomes a relationship game. And I think these big VCs, the benefit is they do often have or hire in people with deep relationships with these pharma that could sell and drive a story. You might be able to do that yourself. Again, for those PhDs that are reticent to do that, relationships and sales is extremely important.
Yeah.
Right? Like relationship building with pharma is sales, is BD stuff.
Yep.
And so I think it's a weird industry where essentially biotech acts as the outsourced R&D arm for pharma.
Yep.
And it's cheaper for them on an IRR basis to do it that way. And but then you have like basically 10 customers that you can go to that have enough buying power to take you.
Yeah.
And that is very strange for most industries. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah, because it's hard to stand on their own, and then that's part of why I think it reinforces the trendiness aspect of things. Because if the pharmas are interested in a zone, there's huge incentive for the VCs to fund things in that zone and not outside of it. Because if their ultimate buyers are saying this is the thing I would be interested in,
and it
they
totally
play that.
Yeah. And if you see, I mean, it is often you can probably put in a former head of R&D at a big pharma in a CEO, and that will cost you less in equity than having a founder on board.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, at the beginning. So yeah. Even if you pay them more cash.
Yeah, for sure. And so now, like, going through all the CEO stuff for you, for the day-to-day things that you do, what's been most different from what you expected going into it? Like the Sophia that met Eric to the Sophia today, which one of her expectations were just like dead wrong?
Okay. There's so many.
You're so disappointed in your former simulation of what your new life would be.
Okay, I don't know how else to say this, but I think this is an area where biotech is unlike startups, and I have been quite surprised. I don't want to cause any offense, but when I met Eric and I are both people who value hard work in and of itself. Every environment I have ever worked in, they're quite corporate. I think actually the Chinese biotech, it is China's largest biotech, but didn't feel that corporate. It felt like a giant startup.
Yeah.
But in that giant startup, we went in between 8 and 9 a.m. every day, and people were out between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. every day. The company had to institute a policy where you would lose some of your bonus if you didn't sleep enough hours. We went in on weekends, every weekend. When I was at BCG, I was expected to work 80 to 100 hours a week. And everyone around me is doing that. And it's honestly, it's not like our work is that interesting.
Yeah.
You're not changing the world.
Yeah.
You're helping a company who told you they want to cut cost by 70 million. You're helping them create a 100-page deck saying that makes sense. Like, it's not, and it's an industry that you have no idea about going in, or you're doing the 5th reorg the past 6 years for this company. And pretending that it's based on, again, a 100-page deck. You're making a lot of slides. Like, it's not that interesting, but you're working 80 to 100 hours a week. When I worked at Gates Foundation, it's a public health. This is more of like an empathy kind of kumbaya kind of a attitude here. Than BCG was a bit more cutthroat, and biotech in China was actually a lot of camaraderie and grandiose ambition, I think, too. But Gates Foundation was also, we did have a big sense of urgency, but we worked 80 to 100-hour weeks consistently. And I would say, like, I actually found that work very inspiring. And you always think, like, in startup world, people work hard. If you talk to any tech bro out here in Silicon Valley, they're like, like, my people, we actually all live together and we sleep in the office. And like, we purchased a house here, and like all of our engineers live there. And by the way, they're all like between the ages of 15 and 21. And biotech is not that. It's I think if you go to any incubator, people strolling in between 9 and 10 and strolling out between 4 and 5. And I don't think that that's necessarily natural to biotech. I've been in biotech in China, and they can do longer. And I think here, I do think biotech, I mean, it's not like people don't make that much money in biotech. The equity incentive is not like it is in tech for anybody.
That's true.
So there are some things that it's like, okay, well, why work that hard? But I think it's an industry where if you do more than the 9 to 5, you're already head above the rest. So I think we need to look at ourselves sincerely and say, like, okay, we do not work that hard. People generally don't work that hard in biotech. And so I think at the beginning of the journey, I was so confused at why everyone was telling me, like, we're burning out. And I was so confused because I'm like, all of you are going home at extremely decent hours. Like,
I'm burning out watching you go home.
Exactly. And it was really hard to live with that. It was hard to live with that. I mean, like, we could be making more progress.
No, definitely agree with that. And I feel like they can get very slow. But I think it's a consequence of, in a weird way, like, because everyone has less equity in the biotech side, and even if they start off with a decent amount, they get diluted to hell before there's any kind of exit, because you need so much money to come in before anything will happen. That maybe that's part of it. And I agree. I think it's like a little bit of a culture thing in our zone.
It's hard to, if you're in an incubator and everyone's doing that, it is hard to go against the grain.
Oh, don't worry. I've gone against the grain. I'm like, I'm gonna email you at any hour.
I mean, I still email at any hour. It's like,
like, response time to customers under 24 hours. I don't care what else is going on.
Exactly.
You've got to answer in under 24 hours.
Oh, that's the other thing. I think if people with PhDs are trained on email differently than I am, you have to answer in 24 hours first. And my inbox is always getting bombarded. So I feel like if I can answer, everyone can answer within 24 hours.
Is there something about you that you think has changed the most throughout all of this?
About me? I think that like I said, at the beginning of this, I'm like, I want to work on really hard problems, the hardest problems and the most consequential. And then I just realized how hard molecular biology is. So it's like actually just one hard problem at a time. One hard problem.
Something to work.
One hard problem, and then really try to dose lighter problems around that. I don't want to work on just straight light problem. I don't want to sleepwalk through building a company, essentially. Or then again, I think we're in a really regulated space. I think a lot of VCs actually like to bring in operators who can almost sleepwalk through the regulatory process. No, I want to do like challenging things. I want, if anything, to use this company as a way to change the regulatory process. Change. Oh, that's another thing. Going back to your previous question. I think this industry is one that, unlike other industries, really is okay with letting things happen to them. We're highly regulated, but CEOs don't like to come out and talk about their feelings about this FDA, for example. CEOs do not like to come out and make a movement to change the way things are.
Do you think that's because the average age is high and that's just their nature because
Uh,
they're more mature in their careers, code for older, or or do you think it's a nature of the industry?
I had seen before, I forgot what year this was in, that there were in most industries, the CEO was quite a recognizable, like I think in terms of branding, typically for a company, you know the brand first and then you know the product. And the CEOs of consequential companies are quite known, like Jensen Huang,
Yeah, yeah,
whatever. In pharma, I had seen that like you first know the product, actually rather you not know or not know the brand name as much. So Pfizer drug versus that kind of changed with COVID, but like where we talk about Moderna
yeah, yeah,
vaccine
yeah,
or first
yeah,
vaccine, but typically it's like, oh, drug product first,
yeah,
Lipitor, but you don't say Pfizer, say Lipitor or whatever.
yeah,
And then pharma name underneath that. They did not put a lot of effort in recognizing the brand.
yeah,
And that CEOs were relatively unknown.
yeah,
People couldn't name the CEOs of major pharma companies.
yeah,
Even people who work in industry tend to not know the names of CEOs of
yeah,
major pharma companies, which is not the case for other industries, particularly tech, where CEOs are more glorified
yeah,
and pharma they're not. And so I think part of it is like we're an industry that maybe because we're so technical in nature, we think that maybe putting out a white paper here or there and that everyone, people will always tend towards a scientific decision. And it could be an age thing.
Well, because I guess I'm just trying to think of like a lot of other major established regulated industries, like whatever, mining and commodity extraction, power, all these other things. Like, you don't, it's similar. You don't really know who runs it, or like they don't tend to try to be loud because they don't want to
Yeah.
piss off the regulator.
Maybe because I worked in Houston before, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking of oil and gas, highly regulated. They are, they are such heavy lobbyists and
Mm.
influential in political circles. They have senators on speed dial. They're understanding the decisions that other countries are making
Yeah.
in order to raise or drop the price of oil
Yeah.
or raise or drop the demand for oil from a particular country.
Hmm.
Um, and so oil and gas executives, highly regulated industry, are highly involved in
Okay. Fair enough.
trying to remake the markets as suits them.
Okay.
And I think that, for example, like the automobile industry does this as well. The German car lobbies are extremely strong and intertwined with German politics.
Is it because they employ a lot of labor though? Because our
Yeah.
case doesn't.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
We don't have any swing voters.
I heard an argument before that biotech employees are all in blue states, in
Yeah.
blue states that are not expected to switch over to being red.
Right.
Massachusetts and California, they're never going to be swing states.
Yeah.
And also that the states don't, nobody wants to be the state that reduces their health budget or reduces
Mm.
any, if they're making the budget on a previous budget, they don't want to be the first state to reduce healthcare spending if they're going to be getting more funding for their state.
Yeah.
So there are some arguments as to why there's little incentives to listen to biotech.
Yeah. Well, so I think we're so far away from the commercial end because related to the regulatory stuff, making phase 1 and phase 2 trials a little bit more, or sorry, if you make a phase 1 or phase 2 trial take a year less versus you allow commercial exclusivity for a year longer, the latter is by far more valuable.
Yeah.
Because it's not diluted by all the failures.
Yeah.
And so they're going to spend all their mind share on something that's working and already printing money, how do I ensure I keep the money printer on for as long as possible?
Yeah.
As opposed to, how do I get through this high attrition rate process any faster?
Yeah.
Especially if their model is to just buy the biotechs that already showed it worked.
Yeah.
Because you're past that point. And then are there any near-death experiences you guys have had so far that you think are fun stories to share?
It's not fun. We had a near-death experience at the very beginning
Uh-huh.
of Radar. It's not so fun to share, but we had so I think, the drama of the time is that we were, as the underdogs, particularly in this industry,
Mm.
both two first time founders, me and Eric, trying to raise for a company on what we believed was a stronger IP position and stronger data
Yeah.
against a blue chip.
Yeah.
And you are really raising against the blue chip because the blue chip just had funding.
Yep.
And it is amazing. You talk to VCs and they're like, oh, this looks great, but we can't say no to the blue chip.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they diligence the blue chip's idea by going to us. And so there's always this, it's like, okay, well, we couldn't, it's hard to know if this diligence process is actually always going to be just diligencing the technology from the inventor for a competitor that was not including us. So we had a co-founder at the time on the academic side who also couldn't decide if he was going to come with us or that blue chip. And I think he was getting some advice from the blue chips themselves that Eric and I were nobodies and inexperienced. And, I think he ended up, he was, for me, I thought like this guy, his licensing office was making us do such incredible amounts of homework that was not related to actually building the company. He was also had really high demands for his equity stake and other aspects of the company and my involvement and Eric's involvement that like didn't align with the vision. And, basically for me, I told Eric like technology might be really exciting, but it's not worth it for me if we can't get along. But all of us just can't get along. It's just not worth it for me.
Well, so if you're not getting along at that point,
it's only the beginning. It was already pretty difficult. And so there was a big moment where we decided to split. It was like, I'm out I'm out or they have to be out. And in the end, they were out. And they went with the blue chip, which is fine. Like,
well, I think a dynamic that I don't think is obvious to a lot of people, and don't get me wrong, I love some of the like academic PIs, but to them, any of these biotech things is essentially a free option.
Yeah.
They're taking no real reputation risk because academia doesn't care what your startups did.
Yeah.
They just care about your papers and your academic progeny that are the next professors.
Yeah.
And so you get equity, but you're not shifting your job. They normally don't get a salary of any sort anyway. So it's not like any kind of financial tie-in. It's just like, oh yeah, I spun out a startup and if it works, I'll get rich. And if it doesn't work, who cares?
Yeah.
And so they're not necessarily that engaged. And I think some of them get very cynical and or greedy. And the ones that have done it multiple times just like kind of get greedy and it's just their thing. They're like, oh yeah, I'll do it all the time. And then the ones that don't do it all the time get all jealous because they see their peers getting stupid rich off of some startup that made it. And then they're like, well, I want that. So if I have one idea, I'm going to, try to get 40% of it.
Yeah. I also think that this was in this case, their first time PIs doing companies. And I think what was not understood is equity is something that incentivizes future behavior, not past behavior. And so the licensing payments to the university, both, equity, royalties, milestones, everything, that is accounting for past work.
Yeah.
Equity is future behavior. And so if you're not actually going to work at the company or put up the dollars, then equity is not the right. It's not the right tool and assignment. I'll say that what was particularly difficult about the situation is we already had term sheets.
Yeah.
And the name, the title co-founder is significant. So now we have term sheets that we're trying to sign at good terms, and we have to go back and tell them we have a co-founder breakup situation. To me, it's not the operating co-founders, but it didn't matter. We lost all the term sheets. So.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Anything
that moves.
Yeah,
they're like,
exactly.
Thank you. Bye.
And they're just looking for a reason to say no. And we gave it to them at that time. So we basically had to take a pause, essentially restart and try to make it look like a different company a few months later.
Have there been VC interactions you've had that like, you're like, oh, that was a great one? Like what are cases where I know on average we're saying they can be painful. What were cases where they were more useful than you thought?
Yeah, actually, the most useful ones I can think of are two VCs that didn't invest in us.
Yeah.
In the future.
Yeah.
Both of them started with like, happy to give you advice, happy to talk. This is outside of our thesis area because of XYZ. Sometimes it was because of us. They just did not do. It's not in their thesis area to do founders. They incubate the companies or.
Yeah.
Right. And I think eventually you become eligible for their dollars, but In both of these cases, these VCs actually gave us a lot of time, and their feedback was the most honest.
Mm-hmm.
They already told me they're not going to invest.
Yeah.
And so in both of them, I think one of them, the advice was generally on, they had been through bad times in biotech before.
Yeah.
They've been around 2008. And, in their opinion, that strategic dollars were actually more important in these times because they not only brought validation, but historically the outcomes are better. And they taught us how to engage with the strategics. It is different than engaging with an investor.
Yeah.
And he was able to give me the rundown based on experience on what were the strategics, what were specifically different strategics looking for that we might talk to, how they might structure their terms, and how we might want to explain our technology to them versus a VC, and timelines from which to engage them, and blah blah blah. So actually, that was a very important redirect. After that, we started engaging very practically with strategics, which I think was essential to raising our seed round. And another VC that just gave us it to me. An important part of fundraising is how much am I going to raise for what, and the breakdown of that. And they really went deep into like, okay, you're missing. You're going to pay for this insurance. You're going to pay for this consulting. It's going to be more expensive than you think. You're going to have to blah, 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 build in this buffer for, whatever it was, like rent or equipment. So I think, like they were willing to get down to the nitty gritty and give me really good advice after telling me that they weren't going to invest.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah.
That's good of them. And then as you think back compared to some of your peers that were getting into these zones, what do you think was different about you that helped you get as far as you have compared to them?
Which peers?
Like other MBA, other PhDs trying to start things, like of the like little froth of people looking for money straight out of school.
Oh, I see. I think in my incubator, when I was seeing others from a scientific background, I think they didn't see fundraising as their number one job when they were fundraising.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll know what your number one job is by just looking at the distribution of your time.
Yeah.
And so they were spending 5% of their time on maybe reaching out to a VC or two. And it's just not enough.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are. It's just not enough. Reach out to as many as you can. And if anything, they'll all say yes. And then your price will go up.
Right.
So like there's capital out there, but it's about, and in my view, I think some of them had views on like, oh, like, I don't want to talk to this person because they don't know what they're talking about. Or they had some view about like, oh, this person's not a PhD, so I don't talk to them. And I'm like, you have money?
Yeah.
Because like, actually, the innovation we're creating is supposed to be for a broad population.
Yeah.
You can talk to generalists. Better on you if you can convince a generalist to understand your idea and buy into it.
Yeah.
And understand the risk profile as well.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if you oversubscribe around, you can choose. And if you don't, then you need more money.
Right.
So to me, it's like being picky ahead of time or not actually allocating time to the fundraising process is more on the technical founder side. If that is your number one job. Or number two, if you really think you're going to be bad at it, then maybe your number one job is recruiting a good fundraiser.
Yeah.
It just like be true to yourself.
Right.
On the MBA side, I don't know. I actually don't know a lot of MBA founders in early stage. Some of my classmates, I do think that on the MBA side, I know for my MBA, there were like 3 of us in my MBA class that remembered the central dogma, molecular biology.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not too many were going to make it.
Not everybody going to make it. Or like some of them like thought to approach, I've heard from PhDs that it's like, I talked to this person, but like they do not understand the basic tenet of my idea.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, well, did you read the paper? And the MBA's like, no, I didn't read the paper. I'm like, well, you got to read the paper because you have to be able to look at data and read. You have to be able to do it.
Because you're going to have to sell that later.
You're going to have to sell that. You're going to have to answer questions on the data.
Yeah.
So you have to ramp up. You have to learn it. And it's not like MBAs refuse to learn deep tech everywhere. I think AI is deep tech.
Yeah.
And they're willing to get into it. But for some reason, people see biotech and they're like, foreign land. I cannot come close. I cannot endeavor to ever understand this.
Well, I also think our field definitely has a public perception problem. So like, why do you think tech type stuff is generally considered cooler? Definitely more money goes into it.
More money comes in and comes out.
Yeah.
You have a lot more people who've made life-changing amounts of money in tech than in biotech.
For sure.
lots more, especially here in the Valley. And MBAs often do chase dollars.
Yeah.
The phenotype of the MBA is chasing dollars. I had an MBA, former MBA, who's been now an executive on the public side of biotech many times. And when I had lunch with him, he was like, early stage biotech, you don't like to make money? So I think like MBA, the phenotype is chasing dollars. And I think this is a much riskier industry to do it in.
One of the other questions on the like more operational side, what do you think is the biggest delta between how you see the world and how the rest of your team sees the world?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, just like by world, I mean the adventure radar is on.
Yes. I think that difference for me and maybe everyone else on my team is I truly believe that the world is, I'm not saying like fungible.
Mm-hmm.
You can make the world you want to live in. You can remake the world. Every construct we live in is man-made. FDA, somebody came up with that and then kept coming up with more ways to structure it.
Yeah.
And it can be remade.
Yeah.
Everything can be remade. Public perception can be remade. This administration's perception can be remade. The FDA can be remade. I really believe in personal agency.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you meet people that we lionize as top in their field, or you meet billionaires or you meet world leaders, you're like, well, they're kind of like me. Like they're not necessarily smarter than me. They're not, I wouldn't say, smarter, more knowledgeable. When I have met them before, and I think that's one of the big opportunities of having been at Stanford, Harvard, or here at, in Silicon Valley or Tsinghua, is you get to meet these people and you're like, I could
you're
be
more normal than
you.
I thought.
Like you're super normal.
Yeah.
You just have a high tendency towards agency. And so on my team, like I always tell my team, I believe I can talk to anybody in the world.
Yeah.
So if you need advice from the top person in the field, or you need something, some lane cleared, I can make it happen. Like we can all make it happen.
Yeah.
To me, it's like there is nothing that is out of reach for us. I remember when we were just a small pre-seed company, and this is a small case, but we didn't have a lot of funding. So I told people we can go to conferences, but you got to get the ticket for free. And they're like, it's impossible.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, certainly possible.
Yeah.
But you have to convince the person to give the ticket for free, and then you can definitely go.
Yeah.
Or I will go if I convince him.
Yeah.
And there was this conference, we're still pre-seed, but one of the team members, I was like, well, a way to get it for free is do a service for them. So I emailed the conference and offered to be on their CEO panel. We're like a pre-seed company. If they'll let me go for free, I'll offer my time. And she was like, that's ridiculous. They're looking for CEOs of like big companies.
Yeah.
Capstan and Moderna and whatever. And, at first I get a response to have a conversation. I have a conversation with them. Eventually I get on that panel.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the head of R&D and BioNTech and me and the CEOs of other big companies.
Yeah.
And I was just taken aback, but it's like, did you try?
Yeah.
This is just another person making this decision. It's your job to convince them to do things.
Yeah.
It's also like, to me, I actually think we're living in a moment of great disruption right now in biotech, where companies are finally exploring beyond the US for phase 1-2.
Yeah.
They're finally exploring beyond the US for commercialization as well, because MFN is making people think about where else we can commercialize.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
We're looking at China as a lot of Americans have never been to China.
Yeah.
And now a lot of them are like, fuck, maybe I need to go to China for the first time.
Yeah.
And China is actually a place where agency really matters. You have a lot more creativity, ability to be creative and move there. And so if you can play your cards right. So I think versus my team, I'm incredibly agentic. I really think I can get anything done.
Yeah.
As long as I know where I'm headed, we can get it done. You can convince anybody. I just need to know who it is.
Yeah. And I think some of the mindset there that you were touching on, that at least I notice the biggest difference on, is their sense of the cost of time is so different from yours.
Mm-hmm.
And like the sense of, they're like, oh, I'll just do that experiment tomorrow or next week. I'm like, no, how about today? We cost like X amount of dollars to exist every single day.
That is another one where it's like, yes, the time one is a big one where they're like, oh, Sophia said to do her budget, so we're going to do this experiment that takes us 4 weeks instead of the one that takes 2. And I'm like, no,
like, no, wrong conclusion.
wrong conclusion.
Every day
Time is
costs
the
like
most
10K or
expensive.
20K, or
And we should
it gets
be
way
looking
worse over time.
exactly. Like you talked about at the beginning, good scientists know which steps to skip.
Yeah.
Good business people too.
Yeah.
You know, get rid of all the obstacles in your way. Like sometimes in business, the best way to skip a step is to go straight to the top.
Yeah.
Why am I talking to you, BD associate, if I can talk to the head of R&D and have him tell you, kind of same VC, talk to partner first. Get out of my way, associate.
Yeah.
Some scientific founders I've met are like, oh, they're going to associate it. This is going to feel, I didn't give them respect or shove them out of the way. I'm like, no, they're wasting your time. Straight to the partner. Partner's going to tell him to give a favorable opinion.
Yeah. You're like, I've been in consulting. I know how this works.
That's how it works. So you do exactly what the partner tells you.
Like, make this look good.
Make this look good. Exactly.
So we can
exactly.
take it
Like business also like know which obstacles to clear, know who to contact to clear them for you.
Yeah.
And get it all out of the way. You can go the long route, which is typically the standard route.
Yeah.
Like, oh, let me learn how to do this. While you're learning how to do it, someone else has already leaped past you.
Yeah.
Sometimes leap past you is find the best person in the world.
Yeah.
To tell you exactly how to do it, and then you do it.
All right. Last question: if you could wave a magic wand and change anything about our zone, what would you change?
Well, definitely FDA.
What about it?
It's risk-benefit calculation. I think it's different than other places in the world.
Yeah.
I think actually China places a lot more, is less paternalistic.
Yeah.
There's,
excuse me.
China's a good model, bless you, for how they can think about it entirely differently.
Yeah.
I think China understood if you want regulation to be faster, if you keep the regulation itself constant, then you need to increase regulatory capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So you can change process. If you want to keep the same regulation, either change process, change regulatory capacity.
Yeah.
It has to be increased. At the FDA recently, we saw a decrease, but the amount of regulation did not decrease. In fact, it was getting harder, even for orphan designations, to get through.
Yeah.
To get a clinical approval.
So one twist or challenge on that from our experiences, I think the FDA, because with Squeeze with our trials and us, I found the FDA to be much more practical and flexible than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
But the people giving us advice, or our own regulatory folks, or the pharma regulatory folks, everyone in between who's in charge of freaking tarot card reading about the FDA is insanely conservative.
I see.
And so it was kind of this I had gotten to this habit of I get you think they're going to say no, but why don't we just freaking ask them and see what they say?
Yeah. Maybe.
Because also one of my friends works there, and she's ultra smart and practical.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I don't know why companies are all such weirdos about things.
Okay, well, maybe since we're obviously preclinical.
Yeah.
And whenever I talk to anybody to give me advice on a regulatory process, is we want to know what our trial design will look like, where we choose to go. I'm like, well, with the number of confirmatory studies they're going to want on our mechanism or whatever, it just seems impossible.
Yeah.
I think part of it is in countries like China or Singapore, China and IIT process is more decentralized.
Right.
So I can have a direct dialogue today. I'm already having it with the, with the PI on the trial. I'm like, what do you want to see? And then I know.
Yeah.
Singapore, you can walk into the regulatory office and talk to them today.
Yeah.
In FDA, we're holding off for that interact meeting until we know enough.
Yeah.
And before that, I think you're right. You're talking to a lot of people who are like, it is an insurmountable challenge.
No, because the thing that emboldened me the most in the end was one of our programs, the most advanced one we eventually did, was doing 5 different modifications at once in 4 different immune cells all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And Roche's team, again, they were good to work with, but Roche's regulatory team, our own people, everyone was like, there's no way in hell FDA is ever going to greenlight this IND. It's a complete waste of time and money, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, I didn't tell our board that. That they were saying, I'm like, it's going to be fine. And I'm like, well, we won't know unless we ask. Let's ask. And if they poop all over it, we'll make the tweaks they want. But this is the product we would rather take in. Let's just freaking find out.
Yeah.
And then we do it. And FDA's like, well, yeah, fine. Because I was like, they seem rational from our past interactions. I think if we just lay out why we think it's okay to do what sounds crazy when you think about it for 5 seconds, but after a 5-minute explanation, like, okay, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
And they like totally said, fine, no weird questions. Like we hadn't done anything in vivo for that one. It was all like, I would say well rationalized mechanistic arguments as to why it was going to be okay to change 5 things about 4 different cell types all at the same time. And at the end, I was like, yeah, that's fine. And then like when we told Roche later, the R&D people within Roche, like when we were catching up over drinks, they're like, by the way, how did you do that? Like our regulatory people were like, there's no way in fucking hell this is ever happening. What did you guys do to the FDA? I'm like, nothing. I swear we just asked.
Yeah. So that's part of the agency thing.
Yeah.
Just ask or talk to the people directly.
Like they seemed reasonable from
Yeah.
our past interactions. And to your point on cost benefit, like they seemed to be hyper aware of what are true unmet needs versus what are just Me Too drugs.
Yeah.
And they are by far more difficult about the Me Too drugs,
Yeah.
understandably, because like, is anyone really benefiting?
Yeah.
Other than financially with the Me Too
Yeah.
drugs.
Yeah.
But it was like an unmet need. They're like, yeah, this poor person's going to die.
Yeah.
If you have a reasonable shot at letting them not die,
Yeah.
let's do it. So anyway, that I found the people in between were the biggest problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
so
that. I mean, yeah. I mean, it goes back maybe to round out the theme. I do wish for this industry that we allow more, what's it called? Creativity and, I don't know, logic.
Yeah.
I think that,
well, I think for that, or sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
No, yeah, because I mean, you had brought it up before we clicked the red button. But I definitely agree with the creativity and logic stuff because I think our industry tends towards conservative hires. I mean, we're biased because we're both, well, I'm old now, but we were both straight out of school types. But I think it's partially for those reasons that they don't have the tech outcomes that they all crave.
Exactly.
Because the tech side will take chances on science and on people, whereas this side only takes chances on science. They rarely take the chance on people. And I think part of that means you don't have insane flameouts.
Yes.
Like crazy, terrible, embarrassing outcomes are far less frequent in biotech, but also for the same reason, you never get past like 100 billion or something.
Yeah. I mean, you have them in the sense of like we saw companies like Tome raise 200 plus million, but they didn't actually get those 200 plus million. So on the PR side, it looks really bad. I'm sure they did not get the.
But it's nowhere near the level of like crazy fraud as like that.
Oh yes, you don't get crazy fraud. Yes, but it is. I do think these really experienced, especially when you're in pharma, the best, fastest decision you can make is to kill a program. Yeah. And in pharma, you're typically now, especially nowadays in pharma, you are much closer to actually doing a risk-adjusted MPV on a project than you are in typical like early stage platforms, where I do think resilience and creativity is required. Yeah. Creativity about the type, the innovativeness of different experiments you choose to take on. Yep. I think some experienced operators would just choose to not do any of the innovative experiments whatsoever. Yeah. A new platform, you do have to do them. Yeah. And I do think resilience, like I'm sure that there are many pieces of data that we've gotten at Radar where most operators would shut down the company. Our competitor did shut down the company. Yeah. I'm like, oh, it's so sad because you could have done these things differently and you were there, but you didn't. So I think resilience, those operators don't have the equity incentive or maybe the background to make choices in a different way.
Well, I also think part of it is the experienced operators, when shit hits the fan, they're more prone to think about how do I save myself versus my baby. Yeah. Because they don't really feel like it's their baby. Yeah. Whereas I think the founder types are like, I've put everything on this.
Yes,
like,
it's gonna
you better
work.
work.
You're gonna work. I'm gonna make you work, and I will do maybe even on the business side. I am incentivized to do more creative things on the business side. I am scouring the planet for creative deals I can make to move this along. Right. Radar doesn't. We still have to be packaged in some way. We still have to. Our broader vision is make the world's most targeted genetic medicines. There's many ways to pull that in. And I'm going to scour the planet until I find the right people and right technologies on the business side. And Eric is going to scour scientific literature in his brain
to make it work.
To make it work. And I do hope, and sometimes I do even think our own investors sometimes lose sight of that. Yeah. When I bring in a deal that I think makes perfect sense. Yeah. I also I like to make deals. So I bring in something that I think makes perfect sense. You kind of know what I'm talking about. I think it makes perfect sense. I'm laying out the argument. I'm like, to a business person, this all makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And I just need to convince people to do it. And at that point, I had convinced so many people to finance my creative endeavor. And yes, non-traditional backers. Doesn't matter. It's a non-traditional deal. And my investors totally forgot that this is not a science project to figure out if this Nature paper, exactly what was in there, is translatable into this context. We're trying to make the world's most targeted genetic medicines. We need them to get to patients. And it's a business. And it's like, I had to remind them. This is what it is. It's not, I'm not interested in running a science project or a lab. I'm interested in a company. Said, jolt them. Okay, wake up. Or remember the bigger picture. Not the like, well, is it because that experiment isn't working that you're doing this? No, that experiment is working, and this is value accretive. And so I think investors too, they can be open to more creativity. I think other businesses are. In tech, you see lots of M&A, even for smaller companies.
They figure it out. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.